Hi, everybody. Today, I just want to talk to you a little bit about receiving constructive criticism and feedback since we've gotten back our first sets of feedback and we're about to get our second set. And it also comes from a really interesting Twitter conversation that I saw yesterday from Delilah Dawson about the fact that she teaches two kinds of students when she's teaching. She finds that she either has students who are open and ready to learn or students who are closed by fear or ego. And she says, if fear or ego is driving your bus, there's nothing I can do to take the wheel. You have to fix that for yourself, and you have to learn to be open to feedback and constructive criticism. As an instructor here, my job or my role as I see it is to help get your books as ready as they can be to go out into the world. And so, based on my experience over nearly a decade of publishing 8 books traditionally, with 2 different houses, and dealing with the last 2 books with a large house in New York, Simon & Schuster, I'm trying to look at this as though I am an editor or an agent. When I was coming through grad school, I remember being very frustrated with understanding publishing because MFA programs just didn't teach about publishing. It was like this giant, mysterious curtain that nobody got to look behind. And I was talking to one of my advisors about it, and he said, well, here's the basic thing. In publishing, you either get an A or an F. And a lot of times you don't know why. And I thought, well, that's really frustrating. That's awful. How am I supposed to improve? But the truth is, that is exactly what it is like. He was totally right. I can just remember when we went on submission with my book, The Unnaturalist. We went through 2 rounds of submission, and we would get rejections that said, that were even like really nice rejections that said, well, I have something similar to this on my list already, and I just can't take this. Or, this just didn't work for me. I mean, things as simple as that means that I didn't get to work with that editor or that house, and I didn't get a book contract. And ultimately, it was about finding the editor who loved the book, for sure. But there were basic things that I had to do in order to make the book palatable to other people. And that meant for me taking the book all the way down to the bones twice and completely rewriting it. The original draft of The Unnaturalist is very different than the draft that ended up being published by Simon & Schuster. So I'm trying to say to you, it's very hard because we get emotionally attached. We get really bound up in our stories, and that's as it should be. We've got to have heart in the stories. You've got to feel the heart of the author beating in that story. But we also have to look at it as producers of a piece of entertainment or producers of a piece of art. How are people going to consume that art? And are we making it easy for people to consume it? Are we making it hard? Who is our audience? And is our audience going to be able to follow where we're going? And my role is, I think, to help you get the basics down so that you don't have to worry about going on submission or trying to get an agent and having an agent come back to you and go, this just isn't where it needs to be. You don't even have the basics down. And some of them will say that to you. They have no problem with saying that to you. Publishing is tough. It's really a hard world to be in. And so you have to develop a bit of a thick skin to get used to it, so that you can persevere and triumph at the end of the day, right? So I'm looking at this very much as though I am an agent you're submitting to, I am an editor that you're submitting to, but I'm also a mentor. I'm also someone who's keenly interested in your story and your career, and I want to help you the best way I can based on the knowledge that I have. So, I may say things that you feel uncomfortable with or that you disagree with, you are welcome to do that. And you are welcome to contact me and say, hey, that isn't what I meant at all. And then I can say, well, okay, but here are some things that I noticed. And it's just part of me partnering with you to try to help you move your story to a place where you can feel more assured that you're not going to get dinged for simple little things like, hey, you just don't have a character that somebody wants to follow, or your story doesn't make sense, or you have a huge plot hole, or, all kinds of things like that. These are things that I can help you fix before you try to go out and do stuff. So I just want to reassure you that sometimes receiving feedback can be tough, and it's okay. And, a lot of times in the industry, when we get an editorial letter, we sit on it for a few days. I know some authors who won't even open the email, like they don't even want to look at it. And then when they've kind of mustered up their courage, that's when they look at it and they go, oh, okay. And then they have to sit with the editorial changes that are being asked, and then you also have to decide as an artist, are you going to does this compromise your vision completely? And if it does, then what are you going to do about it? Or are you going to make compromises in order to see this published? There are a lot of intricate things that happen at that level. But the biggest thing is that you have to be objective, and you have to sit, set aside all your emotions and, all that kind of stuff, everything that you've invested in this personally, and just look at it as a piece of art or a piece of work separate from you, and try to look at it from the other person's perspective, and talk about it as you would with a business colleague or a person with whom you would like to do business. And I don't know if this might help you a little bit, but I'm just trying to think of ways that when you come across this, because a lot of times we are so isolated when we're making our stuff that once it goes out into the world, it's really scary to have somebody actually read it, and to wait on that feedback, and then to receive it, and have to deal with what that feedback is going to be. So all I'm saying is, just do what you need to take care of yourself and your feelings about your work, but also recognize that when I or any other teacher or an editor or an agent is looking at it, we're going to take a really hard, close look at it. And we might say things that are uncomfortable for you, but they're only meant to make you think. They're only meant to help push your story forward. So, in any case, just keep thinking about that stuff. I know this is really tough. I've had plenty of tough rejections, so I absolutely know where you're coming from when, if you're feeling, a little funny about feedback and stuff like that. But just keep in touch with me, and we can talk things out, and all will be well. And I hope you have a great week. Please let me know if you need anything else.